Boxing Evolution TV. I'm just here today with Andy Jardnine from the IFC International Fighting Championship. This interview is in regards to the recent kids fighting, cage fighting thing that happened. It was on the news.
Imagine what these guys are going to be like in 15 years' time.
Look at that, slides in for a single.
Ray Single gets the side control, but he's been...
And I'm just here to find out what Andy Jardnine has to say on this whole matter.
Well,
so Andy, what do you think?
Well, firstly, I've heard the word judo mentioned a few times by a few people, and you know, they weren't doing judo. Let's face it, you know, this is quite funny, to be honest, because the mainstream public, right, which is what you want the MMA audience, you want to get it over to the mainstream public, you know. All they see is two kids in a cage, bare fist. They don't know they're just grappling, you know. They just see two kids in a cage on an evening show, and that's it. Now I've had a few people, I've seen a few videos of a few people commenting on it, and to be honest, I just think they're sitting on the fence about the matter. You know, I think they should take more of an, as they say, if you're an authority in MMA, don't sit on the fence, make a decision. You know, which way you're going to go. You for it or you against it? You know, me personally, I'm against it, because I just think it's rubbish. You know, who wants to see two kids in a cage fighting? I don't. You know, that's the end product of your life's work as a martial artist, to fight in an octagon. Okay, that's when you've done all your martial arts, all your mixed training as a child, as a teenager. You know, and then you want to test it out later on in life, that's fine, but don't stick them in there when they're 8 years old. And certainly, oh my God, don't let them do submissions, for Christ's sake. They're 8 years old. Let me tell you the difference between what you call judo, right, and what they were actually doing there. Judo, we don't allow any submissions, right, before the age of 14. They start learning them at 14, but they're not allowed to use them until they're 16. There's a really good reason for this. In fact, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is the moral implications. Kids don't know about danger, about morality. They don't know about it, right? And the last thing you want is your kid choking someone out of school and they kill him. You don't want that to happen, so don't teach him the moves, because he's going to do them at some stage, or he's going to break someone's arm, you know? He's going to do that because they don't know no different. You know, you can't lock up a kid 8 years old for strangling someone. You can't bang him up for 10 years. You know, it's just that you have to look at it like that.
So you don't think that they've got the the self-control or the understanding about what they're doing?
No, they haven't. Otherwise, they'd be in Parliament making decisions, wouldn't they? They're kids.
True.
Like we were all kids.
Yeah.
We were all stupid and getting up to no good, and you know, and being told off, and you know, that's
so
what.
Do you think that obviously then that the locks, like the chokes and the arm locks and stuff like that, they're more dangerous than punch and kicks?
Well, let me give you a little example, right? Kids' bones, right? This is a kid's bone. Okay, you can see it'll bend, and it'll bend before it hurts, and it'll stay bent like that. That's called deformity. So you can actually deform your skeletal structure before you become an adult, and you won't notice it until you're an adult. Then you'll have the problems.
So there's valid medical reasons why they shouldn't be doing.
Of course,
the
that's why the judo don't allow it. That's why I hate it when you guys mention judo and you've never even done it in your life, and you mention it. Christ, get your black belts in judo, then you can comment on it. Okay, this is an adult bone. It's brittle. What it will do, it will hurt first before it does that. Okay, and that's why people tap out. Let me go back again. Kid's bone will just bend. It will bend a lot before it hurts. Okay, so there's two very good reasons why not to stick your kid in a cage when he's 8 years old, especially with submissions. Right, that's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. What are you thinking? You've got to be the biggest idiot on the face of the planet. I'm sorry, but have a good, hard, long look at yourself in the mirror, seriously.
Okay, so in that regards, Okay, so we've got a valid reason there as to why submissions and chokes shouldn't be done or even taught to children. What about, for example, exhibition kickboxing or boxing fights?
Well, you know, the public see what they see, you know, and that's like, okay, you've got an argument, getting punched in the head's not good, millions of brain cells die every time you get hit in the head, they regenerate again, etc. That's what happens, you know. Millions of brain cells die anyway every day. That's just what happens. Cells die and they get regenerated and form again. But when you see all the safety equipment like the shin pads, the head guard, the gloves, it does make a massive difference to the mainstream public. Don't forget, they don't know about MMA or martial arts. We want to get people in from the outside to watch the sport, to make the sport grow. And having 2 kids in the cage, all they see is bare knuckle. 2 8-year-olds, they put 2 and 2 together. They're used to seeing images like this. Like, have a look at the picture. Okay, and that's like 2 UFC fighters covered in blood, like pounding on each other. They're used to seeing that. Next thing they see, the kid sitting on the floor crying his eyes out. It doesn't matter why he's crying or how he got to that stage of crying. The other kid could have called him a name. Doesn't make any difference. The fact is, that kid's sitting in an octagon or a cage and he's crying. It don't look good. Don't look good at all.
So, do you think the cage then, as itself, is a symbol of something that is quite barbaric? I mean, what's the difference between having a cage, for example, to a boxing ring? You know, is a cage worse, you know, than a boxing ring?
I'd say, like, you know, in boxing, you know, the fights split up when they hug each other, or when they grapple and stuff like that. You know, there's no, obviously there's no groundwork in boxing or kickboxing. It's just stand up, but they have got bigger gloves on. You know.
What about, for example, though, if it was like in the Pride rules, you know, they had the wrestling going on in a ring? Would that be different?
Yeah, I think the Pride rules has been overlooked because it's in a boxing ring. You know, people don't really take much notice of it. It's in a boxing ring. The actual presence of the octagon, the cage, makes it look very gladiatorial, you know. It really does. It makes it look like this is the pinnacle of fighting, which it is. It is the pinnacle of fighting. We've seen pro boxers go in there, they haven't even got a punch on the guy and they've been taken down. And these are excellent, excellent boxers, do you know what I mean? They have to learn the grappling in order to succeed in the octagon, you know. Some of the best kickboxers have been in there as well. They've just been taken out by the grapplers, you know.
There's some people that might say in regards to this that, you know, the sooner you get kids kind of into the real world and toughened up, you know, it does good for them. For example, the Spartan Warriors, they had their kids training from the age of 6. You know.
Well, you're talking about one of the most brutal regimes in recorded history here, and the kids stayed with their mother until the age of 6, and then they went with their father to train. But they were never stuck in gladiatorial combat before the age of 16. Even the Spartans knew that, you know. So why are we doing it now? You know, they were just training. Yeah, they were sparring, they were doing that, they were fighting with wooden swords, but they weren't stuck into the arena, you know, on a gladiatorial show in the evening where they all fought. They never did that. They never stuck their kids in there.
So do you think? Do you not think then?
Hang on, we're talking about the people that used to look at babies and go, "No, this one's not right," and chuck them in the pit. That's what we're talking about. But even they knew.
Even they didn't.
Not to start them off too early.
Very, very good point there.
Yeah.
I think. But so is this not a good way for kids to gain experience of combat? You know, what's the best way for them to get experience at competing?
Do you know what? Start with all the traditional martial arts. They've got a lot of discipline. I mean, start with like karate. I know some people might say it sounds stupid, but no, it's great. They get a belt. They get their grades. They've got short-term goals to achieve. They get tags on their belts. Kids love that. You know, some of the best martial artists today come from jiu-jitsu backgrounds, judo, karate, taekwondo. They've done this, they've done that. Look at Lyoto Machida, you know, he's from a great fighter. You can name loads of them, you know. Karo Parisian, judo background. Look how good that guy is. There's just loads and loads and loads of guys that come from the traditional martial arts background. That can't be forgotten. You can't just go to an MMA club and learn MMA and then you're going to be an MMA fighter. You're going to be lacking in so much if you haven't done your homework or you haven't done your apprenticeships in other martial arts, you're just always going to be lacking. Yeah, you might win a few fights and stuff like that, but that's as far as you're going to get. You know, you're never going to get to that really, really high level. You need boxing. You need to be an excellent boxer. You need kickboxing. You need judo. You need wrestling. You need Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You need all these things. You need to be good in all these individual things. That's why it's mixed martial arts. It's not MMA. MMA stands for mixed martial arts. It's not MMA on its own. I do MMA, and you just go to an MMA class. But well, what are you doing? You're just learning a watered-down version of everything. You know, in that class, you're not actually excelling in a few different, you know,
so
separate
they need
disciplines.
to work at their separate disciplines. And,
yeah, definitely.
And in terms of gaining experience at competing, you think what's better? Was there a better way of doing it?
Of course there is. There's loads of competitions that kids can go to. I used to do judo when I was a kid. I fought in the Middlesex Schools Championships. I fought in the Northern Home Counties Championships. I gained great experience. Like 10, 15 years ago, I was teaching people mixed martial arts. I was teaching them groundwork. I was teaching them judo. It's taken people 15 years to catch up to what I already knew then. You know. And I can still teach people a few things, you know. I still know a few, one or two things, you know. But I think with all the BJJ now, and everyone's got up quite a high level now, you know, it does get harder and harder. But I'm talking 10, 15 years ago, that served me well, learning judo from the age of 6, you know. Really did. And kickboxing as well. So
to sum up, you think that the cage should be, you know, the end result of what you're doing, rather than, you know, thrown in there.
Of course it should. Yeah, of course it should.
What effect do you think this will have on the kids?
Well, apart from their bones being...
Yeah. Psychologically, do you think there's any...
Well, it's either going to do two things, isn't it? It's either going to scare the crap out of them, so they're never going to want to go near a cage again, or they're just going to be so hungry for bloodlust that they're going to be some sort of monster walking along the street, you know, that just wants to fight.
That's true. Okay, so what about kids engaging in fighting sports full stop then? Do you think it's good?
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah. It's excellent discipline. Of course it is, if it's done right. It has to be done right, doesn't it? You know? There's no way, you know, you teach boxing yourself, you have a structure for the boxing, you teach young people, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, so you know what I'm talking about, but you would never put them together and let them mill like they do in the paras.
No, you don't let them, you know,
imagine if you did that, right, you two, right, go all out, let's go, like they do in the paras.
No,
I mean, that's like, you know, adult, you know, type of fighting. You don't teach that to kids. They have to learn separate structures slowly but surely, so they know when to use it and when not to use it, you know, they have to learn that.
Okay, anything else you want to say on the subject?
I think I've pretty much covered everything, haven't I? Yeah.
I think you've covered a lot in
the
interview. Yeah.
Yeah, but just one more thing, you know. If you're going to say you're an authority on MMA, you know, just make sure that you are.
Alright, so you've heard Andy Jardine's thoughts on the matter. Seems like he's got clear-cut medical evidence for reasons why kids shouldn't be doing these things, and also, you know, a lot of experience to add to why, you know, kids shouldn't be in these situations. So thank you, Andy.
Cheers. One more thing. Don't let them get in there. Don't put the kids in the cage, because you're going to get the sport banned. I'm telling you, you're going to get it banned. You're giving them fuel. You're giving them fuel to get rid of the sport that they don't like anyway by sticking the kids in the octagon. Don't do it.